It's overwhelming, but it's also our jobs.
Mm-hmm. Our job is only going to get harder.
It's worrisome.
This is something that's unprecedented.
Now is not the time to be a cowboy. No one has anything to prove. We're all in this together.
Welcome to Reporting from the Frontline of a Pandemic. I'm Krystin Beaulieu, and I spoke with Denise Kaigler, owner of MDK Brand Management Company, about some of the innovative ways she's been keeping her business running, and also about some of the challenges and setbacks she has had with everything going on involving COVID-19. Here's what she had to say. Well, thank you so much for willing to share some of your busy schedule with me today. Could you explain a little bit about your job title and about your business that you run?
So I'm the founder and principal of MDK Brand Management, which are my initials. Michelle Denise Kaigler is my full name. So MDK Brand Management. And I, in my company, works to help organizations and individuals define a brand, either a business brand or an individual brand, a personal brand that will help them achieve their goals. So that's what I do in a nutshell. I'm all about the end result. What can I do to help businesses, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit or an individual, create, define, project, communicate a brand that is going to help them get to where they need to go, either achieve their business objectives or their professional goals.
And what got you so interested in marketing, helping other people with their business goals? I don't know if maybe you once had a business idea yourself other than this, but kind of what started all of that?
So I had been in corporate. My career started me, I was a BJer. I was at Emerson College broadcast journalism major with Marcia, who I adore to this day. And Marcia, she started the process of helping me get out of my own way mentally. I was a very shy, very introverted kid, even through college. And it still is mind-boggling that I would major in journalism, broadcast journalism, not even something behind the scenes, but in front of the camera. But I guess it was my mental way of realizing that I could not go through my life being afraid to speak up, being afraid to talk, not having a voice. And I did not have a voice all through school, elementary, middle school, high school, and even the first couple of years of college. I had a voice because everyone has a voice, but mine, I was afraid to use it. I was afraid to maximize it, afraid to leverage it, to advocate for myself, to speak up for myself, to share my own ideas, my own perspectives. And so Marcia started that process with me in school, but then when I got into corporate, I realized, you know what, this is going to hold me back. I'm not going to be able to achieve my goals unless I learn to one, realize and embrace my voice, but learn how to use it and use it effectively and maximize the strength of my voice. And so I got into corporate and I slowly started coming out and coming into myself and engaging or embracing what I had to offer. And I had coaches and sponsors and mentors all through corporate. But I got to a point where I was meeting so many people who were a lot like me with no voice, and I knew they had something to say because I traveled around the world. I met so many people, famous people, not so famous people. And I got to a point where, I want to make more of an impact. I want to have more of an impact and let people know, one, that I am a lot like or was a lot like them. And so I got to a point where I realized I wanted more. I wanted to help other people. So I started volunteering my time hosting personal branding workshops. And it was an idea that I came up with as I was meeting people all over the world, of course, including the U.S. And so I said, while I was working as a senior vice president of corporate affairs and communications at Boston Scientific, I started volunteering on weekends, going out into the community, into Roxbury, Mass, and hosting free workshops for women and people of color who were dealing with their own challenges, their own obstacles, much like I was. And I started helping them embrace who they were and helping them pull out their strengths and their values and learning how to communicate that to their stakeholders, their network, people they wanted to impress. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the feedback I was getting. So I started doing more of it, including at Boston Scientific. And I just started, I wrote a business plan and I said, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I launched my company. I left corporate in June of 2015, and I launched my company, MDK Brand Management, in 3 weeks later in July of 2015.
And when
I founded my LLC in July of 2015, and I launched it in October with 3 clients, including Boston Scientific.
Wow. So you...
I know that was a long answer to your question, but...
No, that was great. Throw all the information you can at me. So what was your role at Boston Scientific?
So I was the Senior Vice President for Corporate Affairs and Communications. So It included external communications, internal employee communications, strategic communications, and I don't know, it was a couple other areas. There were a few branding, for corporate branding, brand management. Yes, those were a few of the areas that reported into me.
So you left Boston Scientific, but then you gained them as a client for MDK. So that's kind of crazy how that happened.
That's cool.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly what I was going to ask you when you launched your business, how you ended up getting clients, because it sounds like when you were volunteering, you were able to reach out to a lot of people. So I would think that you would have a successful launch from there.
Yes, and even just in my world, my corporate life, I worked at Reebok for 17 years, Adidas Group for a couple of years. After Adidas bought Reebok, I transitioned to having both my feet in both companies. I headed up global communications for Reebok, and then Adidas hired me to head up U.S. communications for the corporate arm, the corporate communications arm. But it was over during my 25-year career in corporate, I was able to build up quite a few contacts. And so when I went out on my own, I did what every business owner does. I hit my Rolodex, if you will, and I set up meetings and I was pounding the pavement, and I didn't want to take for granted that just because I had built a brand for myself in corporate, because I was a corporate spokesperson at all the companies I worked for, so Reebok, globally, and then Adidas, mostly focused in the U.S. because they had their own corporate communications arm based in Germany, but Boston Scientific and other companies, Nintendo and Rockport. So I didn't want to go into entrepreneurship assuming that because I had this known brand in corporate that it would translate necessarily to business ownership, because it didn't. And so I had to work hard. I pounded the pavement. I set up meetings, lunches, dinners, meetings in people's offices, drinks, and I had to rebrand myself. I had to rebrand myself from being a corporate executive to being a sole proprietor, entrepreneur, business owner. And the transition, it was interesting. I kept a journal actually for a few years. So people, at some point, if I ever wanted to share my journey from transitioning from corporate to entrepreneurship, I wrote everything down. So I have it. I mean, every single thing I went through, from everything I'm explaining to you today, that how I had to transition, and even mentally, I had to, transition my own mental mindset from corporate to entrepreneurship. And I had to reintroduce myself to people who knew me in one role and say, well, that's not me anymore. I have my own company. I'm not riding on any corporate coattails. I'm riding on my own brand and my own experience. And it's been fantastic. I've worked with some really great nonprofits, for-profits, and it's been a journey. It'll be 5 years this year. Oh my gosh, I say that out loud. It's hard to believe. It's been almost 5 years. July will be 5 years since I founded my company.
Wow. I remember Marcia saying in our email chain too how you've had such a long road, and how you have had so many different jobs that have kind of, I think they're responsible for how you were able to found your business today. And now you're able to do something that you've kind of always wanted to do is you've overcome these obstacles of yourself, and now you're almost like a teacher for other people who are now trying to do the same thing, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, I can't stress the importance of getting out of our own way. I mean, too often times, especially women and people of color, we tend to be our own worst enemy. I mean, it just happens, whether it's culture, whether it's, whatever. We're trained to think a certain way. I don't know what it is. And listen, I'm both. I'm a woman, I'm a person of color, and I've absolutely fallen into that trap. And it's hard because for so long, many of us have heard so much rejection. No, you can't. No, you won't. No, you never will. And so we have to advocate for ourselves and say, yes, you can. And yes, you will. And so that's what I had to do. And so even though I launched my company with 3 clients, I still had to work really hard at going out and getting more clients. And since then, I've been able to, in addition to Boston Scientific as a corporate client, I've been able to work with Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, and Marsh McLennan. And I mean, some of them I don't talk about because, confidentiality, but nonprofit organizations as well. The BASE, Children's Services of Roxbury, have been some of my clients. I'm working now with the client that's affiliated with Harvard, and it's been so great to see and feel the impact that using my own experiences, using my own challenges, helps other people see that they can overcome and lean into their voice and amplify their voice to make an impact and do something that helps other people while making ourselves feel pretty good.
That's awesome. So could you explain a little bit about maybe how your workday has changed since everything happened with the pandemic?
Yes, and right, everyone's daily lives have changed. Work days, personal time. So because I'm a small business owner and sole proprietor, I was already working remotely. I'm working more from home now, obviously, because I'm not out. What energized me was going out and being with clients and conducting workshops. Most of my business model was really based on in-person workshops, and I do them a lot, or I was a lot of interactive workshops. That was the bread and butter of my company, where I would go in-house to, let's say, a Bank of America or Marsh McLennan, and I would host and facilitate personal branding workshops for employees. And I love doing that. The prison system is another overarching client, where I would go into correctional facilities across the state. I've worked with various counties across the state, including Suffolk County, Middlesex County, Barnstable County, Plymouth County, and I go into the prisons and I work with inmates on developing their personal brands so that when they leave the prison system, when they're no longer incarcerated, what do they want the world to see, to think about them? How do they want to be viewed? What do they want to project? And I tell the inmates I work with, both men and women, so MCI Framingham is another client I work with. And so I tell men and women who are incarcerated to not let the mistakes that landed them in prison define the rest of their lives, that they can do more and be more and use their challenges or their mistakes to help other people. And so I missed that. I was actually in the middle of I do 4-week workshop programs for the prisons. I travel around the state and I go to different prisons, and it's a 4-week workshop program. And when they finish the 4 weeks, if the inmates have been in each of the sessions, they get a certificate of achievement. And I was in the middle of a 4-week workshop session, 2 weeks in, when I got the email that everything was canceled because of COVID-19 and, social distancing. So it was like, oh my gosh. And so that was unfortunate. But so that's been the biggest thing is impact on me is that I can't go out and do my interactive personal branding workshops. And I'm really at home because I do have an office I work out of in downtown Boston. But for the most part, I am like everyone else right here at home. But I do have work that I do through Zoom, clients who that don't need me physically with them. So that is helpful if I'm working on their overall, because I don't do just workshops. I work with clients on their overall branding initiatives, their marketing initiatives. So that's what I'm doing right now.
So when everything happened and you kind of got the notice that things were going to be shutting down, does that mean your person-to-person, one-on-one meetings in the prisons were just put to a pause? Or was that one of the instances where you were able to do Zoom workshops?
No, they come to, they're done until this whole thing, until we try to get back to some, sense of,
Wow.
Quote unquote normalcy. They're done. It wouldn't work. One, you can't have this kind of technology inside the prisons. I mean,
Right.
you can't even you can't bring your cell phones. You can't bring your computer. It's just me with hard copies of my actual presentations, and I sit and I work with the inmates in a room, and I love that because it's that one-on-one personal touch that I think is the unique difference with what I do with my clients is I share and I pick up and they share with me. I pick up on them, their backgrounds, what it is that perhaps put them on the road to being incarcerated, and I use that energy, that feedback to help them redevelop and redefine their brand so they're in a better place, a stronger place for when they are re-entered or re-enter society.
So do you feel like it's almost better for things to be put on hold, and then when everything is better, it's better for you to be there with them in person versus even if you could have technology there, you really feel like the one-on-one workshops that you do with people are far more, I don't know, it's
Effective.
yeah.
Yeah, and for me, because that's where I get my energy is in person workshops. I could suppose make workshops work online, and I will. I mean, I'm working on evolving my business and I was doing this actually even before COVID-19 hit, to broaden my program or product offerings to being more online, because that's where technology is going. Not just, well, that is the technology, because that's where society is moving. It's convenience. It's about being where people are during the time frame that works for them in a mode of communication that is most convenient. And even though I get a lot of energy from in-person experiences, I do enjoy as well communicating, whether it's talking on the phone or talking, seeing you through Zoom. I think it's that face-to-face. It may not be touchy-feely face-to-face, but I can see you, I can understand you, I can hear you, and so I can, read your mannerisms, read your body language, and I pick up on that as well. So that's sort of where my vision in the not too distant future is to evolve my business to being more online offerings, or offering more online services.
Evolving with the times almost. But I agree with you as well. I know when people are trying to start a business or when someone is really serious about something, I know if I would rather do workshops with someone like you in person as well. I feel like I'm a very visual learner. I'm a very hands-on learner, and I think that is the way that someone like me, never mind so many other people, prefer to learn things that they take seriously as well. So I definitely hear what you're saying on that. Could I ask you to explain a little bit about, I know you said that you have a Facebook Live series, Break the Glass, 30 Tools in 30 Days. Could you explain a little bit about what that is and what inspired you with that idea?
Sure, I love it. So I'm doing it now. So the 30 days, the month of April, for the 4.5 weeks of the month of April. Each day I go on my MDK Brand Management Facebook Live page, and I share a tool. So what I've done, so I wrote a book, $40 and a Brand. I wrote that book back in 2000. I think it came out in 2016, and I wrote an update in 2000. I don't even remember. I think it was last year. I can't remember. This, this whole work from home and everything. It just,
I understand.
My brain, like, I don't even know what day it is at
I
the time.
understand. Same
it's so
here.
weird, but so $40 in a brand. I wrote about my own challenges. It's $40 in a brand. How to overcome challenges, defy the odds, and live your awesomeness. And so it comes from a personal perspective. And my editor, it was funny, it's a whole process. For folks who've written a book, it's a whole process that I didn't understand or appreciate until I wrote a book. But it was very personal, and I bear as one of my the folks who wrote an endorsement on the book. In the book, she says, "You bear your soul." I bear my soul because I want people to understand what a lot of people go through to reach their career or achieve their career goals. But what was missing was really understanding and communicating, expressing the challenges of reaching your professional goals. So my book is focused on overcoming personal challenges. What my series right now, Break the Glass, is doing is I am sharing the exact tools I use to break through certain barriers, to break through the glass, and to reach my professional goals. So every day, the month of April, I share one tool that I've documented over the years that have helped me achieve my goals. I've broken through 6 glass ceilings I've broken through, from SVP, the first Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs and Communications at Boston Scientific, a multi-billion-dollar global corporation. And I have several examples of 6 times I broke through the glass ceiling. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to help other people, whether you are coming out of college, breaking into the working world, whether you are a mid-level manager wanting to make it to the C-suite, whether you, like me, were in corporate and want to make that transition to entrepreneurship. There are so many different categories or layers of professionals out there. And it's interesting, when I first launched this, when I first sat down and mapped out this program, Break the Glass, how to break through the glass ceiling, how do you overcome obstacles, or what tools do you need to break the glass? COVID-19 hadn't hit at all. Unemployment was low, 2 to 3%. There was nothing like this when I was ready to go with this live program. And then all of a sudden, the world came to a screeching halt, maybe, a week before I started this series. And I thought, oh my gosh, are people going to care about breaking through the glass ceiling when they're just trying to hold on to their job? Mm-hmm. They just want to make ends meet, because I was in that same position. And I thought, I think this series is now more important than ever in the midst of all of this craziness, because now people are going to have to probably rethink and reset what they were planning to do, and maybe they have to go a few steps back. I talk a lot about not everybody moves in a straight line. Some of us go in circles. Some of us come to a full stop before we can move ahead. Some of us move in the Z before we can get to where we go. That message is more important today than it was even when I sat down and mapped out during this program. So I go on Facebook Live every day at 7 o'clock, and I hope I'm addressing the need of people, whether you are still gainfully employed but working from home, whether you have unfortunately lost your job and not sure where you're going to go from here, whether you were in the midst of founding your company, but because of all this you have to put everything on hold, whether you own a company and you're not getting any work, your clients are just gone, your products aren't selling. I believe my tools are still helpful, and they're more important now than ever. The tools that I'm introducing folks to, and they work, and they're the tools that I use to achieve my professional goals, and I am loving it. I've never done a Facebook Live series, a 30-day challenge before, and I get on every day, and I have a 20, 25-minute, and they're short, bite-sized pieces. They're not long, because I recognize people have, things to do, other things going on. Even though you're at home, there are things you have to do. And so I try to be very sensitive to people's times. And I hope, folks here watching this, join join me. It's my MDK Brand Management Facebook page. So you've got to follow or like, obviously, my business page in order to get in and get access to the live sessions. But we have some pretty good engagement, and I'm thrilled. And all the videos, or not all of them, most of the videos are up on my Facebook page. So if people start watching now, they can still go back and look at most of the videos. I think of the 23, today is the 24th session. I think of the 23 days, I am missing, I think, 6 of them, but most of them are there.
In these past 24 days of April, could you give me a little sneak peek on kind of the topics to come while we finish up this last week of the month?
That's a good question. Oh, yeah. So right now we are in, so I theme every week. So every week in April, I've had a theme. And this theme is all about increasing your visibility. And the theme is named, Are They Feeling You? Are they feeling you is the theme. So everything theme is a question. So who are you was, I think, is the first week. Who are you? I think the second week was where are you going? And then actually, do I have it here? Who are you? Where are you going? Or yeah, what's your goal? Are you willing? It's the third week. Are you willing? And this week is, are we feeling you? And then next week is, well, I won't talk about next week because it hasn't happened yet. But some of the tools. So I'm excited. This week is my favorite week. You know, they say you have kids, you don't want to have a favorite kid, but I do have a favorite theme week, which is this week right now, because it's all about the tools to increase your visibility, deepen your engagement with your primary audience, your stakeholder, whether it's someone who you want to hire, who you want to hire you, promote you, buy your services, buy your products. And so the tools that I've introduced this week are all focused on that. Social media was a tool this week. Media coverage was a tool this week. Media coverage, social media, self-awareness was last week. Elevator pitch was another tool that I introduced this week. So I've got another tool which I'm excited about coming on tonight, which I'm very, very excited about. And I can talk about it because I teased it this morning, and it's your voice. And that is a tool that too many of us don't utilize fully, including myself as when I was younger. And that's why I thought this was a really important tool to talk about, is your voice, because everyone has one, but are we using it as effectively as we should be using it? And your voice matters more today than it ever has, and it will matter even more tomorrow. So during the session tonight, April 24th, I will talk about the importance of utilizing your tool to reach your professional goals. It's all about professional development. So the series is focused on helping people develop themselves professionally. So I'm excited about it.
I feel like even if I didn't have a business that I'm interested in starting right now, maybe tuning into these breaking the glass tools and these different weeks that you're offering would help me on a personal level, not just with my personal business goals. I feel like I could, just from listening to you tease your series, I'm getting the vibe that I could tune in just as a college student right now and maybe be able to take away something that I will be able to use now, apply in my life right now, or in the future. So
absolutely. And this series is not targeting whether you're a business owner or whether you're in corporate. It's anyone who wants to develop themselves professionally. And as you point out, including college students. And now is the time for college students to really understand what tools that they need to have and what tools they need to sharpen. And now when everything gets back and the world opens up again and businesses start hiring again, college students are going to now be competing against older folks who were kicked out of the workforce because of COVID-19, who are now going to be trying to get back in, whereas before you weren't competing with older folks. And now my guess is that you're going to now be competing with people who have 5, 10, 15, 20 years of experience. So what are you going to do to sharpen your tools to get into that workforce and gain your ideal job?
So if there was, say, a Breaking the Glass series episode just for graduating college students, would that be your advice? Would that kind of be the overall theme of that series episode?
It will probably be breaking in. So break the glass. You think about that, and most people think of breaking the glass, and that's what I created it for people who were in the workforce, who are, maybe they're stuck, maybe they want to transition, but they still want to move up and get to their next level. So that's breaking the glass. How do you get to your next level if you're already working? Although I do think there's still some tools, helpful tools for college kids. If I were to design a program specifically for college kids, it would be Breaking In.
Her Facebook Live that night was all about how to help you increase visibility and how to effectively use and maximize your voice. All of her Facebook Live events can be found via her MDK Brand Management Facebook site. I would like to thank Denise again for taking the time out of her busy schedule to do this interview with me, and thank all of you for watching this episode of Reporting from the Frontline of a Pandemic. I'm Krystin Beaulieu, and again I spoke with Denise Kaigler, owner of MDK Brand Management.